The edge of silence. The alien girl stood alone on the broken platform, high above the ruins of her fallen city. The night sky was cold, painted with two pale moons and scattered stars, but none of its beauty touched her heart. Her eyes, glowing faintly in the darkness, were filled with emptiness. She did not blink. She did not move. She only looked down at the endless drop beneath her feet. Her claws dug into the cracked metal as if she needed pain to remind herself that she was still alive. The wind screamed around her, carrying dust, ash, and the faint smell of fire from battles long ended. The city below was silent now, but she could still hear echoes in her mind, the screams, the fire, the sound of soldiers dying. Every shadow below looked like a memory she wanted to erase. Her people were gone. Her family had been scattered like the dust under her feet. And she, once a child of warriors, was now nothing but a ghost with no reason to remain. She whispered softly, her voice broken and bitter, "No one will care if I fall." Her words were carried away by the wind, lost to the night. For a long moment there was only silence. Then her body leaned forward, closer to the edge, her toes hanging over the abyss. One more step, and the endless drop would claim her. She closed her eyes. But then, a voice. Calm, deep, and steady. A voice that did not belong to the wind. "Don't." Her eyes snapped open. Her ears twitched sharply, every nerve in her body burning with sudden alertness. Slowly, she turned her head. And there, at the far end of the platform, stood a figure. A man. A human. He was not dressed in the shining armor of the conquerors she remembered from the war. His clothes were torn, his armor scratched and dull. His face was tired, marked with dirt and scars. He looked like someone who had walked through fire and kept walking because he had no choice. The alien girl hissed, her fangs flashing. Her first thought was anger. Human. Destroyer. Enemy. She tightened her claws, preparing to leap away from him, or from the ledge. It no longer mattered. But the human did not move toward her. He only stood there, breathing slowly, his hands empty, his eyes fixed on her. There was no weapon in his grip, no violence in his stance, only his voice, steady and calm. "You don't have to do this," he said again. She bared her teeth. "Why not? What is left for me?" The human tilted, his head slightly, his expression unreadable. For a moment silence returned. The only sound was the groaning of the broken metal beneath her feet and the whispering of the wind. She expected him to argue, to shout, to demand. But he did not. Instead, he said softly, "Because I know what it feels like to stand where you are." Her eyes widened, her chest tightened against her will. What did he mean? How could a human, an enemy, know what it felt like to lose everything? She wanted to laugh, to spit in his face, to call him a liar. Yet his voice, it was not mocking. It was not proud. It was heavy, like his words were carved from his own pain. Her tail lashed behind her as she fought against the strange pull of his presence. He was just one man, fragile compared to her people, weak compared to the warriors she had known. And yet, his voice carried a weight that made her claws tremble. The wind blew harder, forcing her forward another inch toward the abyss. The girl's breath caught in her throat. For a moment she thought about letting go, about ending the story of her pain right there. But then her eyes were drawn back to him, this strange human who stood still, waiting, watching. He did not rush to stop her. He did not beg her to return. He simply stayed, as if his presence alone was a hand reaching out through the dark. For the first time since her world had shattered, she felt something other than despair. She felt confusion. She felt hesitation. And with hesitation came danger, because once you hesitate, once you stop to think, maybe you are not ready to fall after all. The girl clenched her fists, her voice breaking as she shouted across the platform. "Why? Why do you care if I live or die? You are human, my enemy, my curse." The man's eyes, shadowed but calm, did not look away. His answer was simple. Because no one deserves to be alone at the edge. The words struck her like a blow, stronger than any weapon. She staggered, her claws slipping slightly on the metal surface. Her heart pounded, confused, angry, and afraid. Yet deep inside, a spark flickered. The alien girl turned away from the drop just slightly, her body trembling with every breath. She was not safe. She was not saved. Not yet. But for the first time, she had stopped moving forward, and all because of a human voice. The human stranger. The alien girl's claws trembled against the metal floor, still close to the ledge. Her chest rose and fell quickly as she stared at the human across the broken platform. He stood so still, like a shadow cut out of stone. The moons behind him cast a pale glow over his figure, making his presence feel both unreal and unavoidable. Her first instinct was to leap at him. Her people had taught her that humans could never be trusted. They were destroyers, invaders, beasts who took what they wanted and left nothing but ruin. Every scar on her heart whispered that he was her enemy, yet he had not moved. He had not raised a weapon. His eyes did not hold the cruelty she expected. Instead, they carried something strange, something she did not want to name. The silence stretched between them like a blade. Finally, the girl broke it with a hiss. "Why are you here, human, to finish me, to watch me fall?" The man's voice was calm but rough, as though each word had been pulled through fire before reaching the air. "No, I came because I saw someone standing on the edge, and I couldn't walk away." She blinked. The answer was too simple, too strange. No soldier she had known would risk his life for such a reason. No conqueror would care about the pain of an enemy. "You lie," she spat, her tail flicking in anger. "You came to mock me. You want to see me broken." The man did not flinch at her sharp tone. His eyes never left hers. "If I wanted that," he said, "I wouldn't have spoken at all." The girl's heart pounded faster. Something about his words unsettled her. His voice carried no arrogance, no sharpness. Instead, it carried weight, the kind of weight that comes from truth. She hated that she could not dismiss it easily. She looked at him more carefully now. His armor was not like the proud plates of war she had seen before. It was battered, cracked, burned by fire. His clothes beneath were stained with blood and dirt. A long scar cut across his jaw, half-healed but deep. He did not look like a hero or a conqueror. He looked like someone who had survived things no one should have survived. The girl's claws loosened against the metal. She felt a question building in her chest, but her pride kept it locked. Instead, she asked another. "Why did you follow me here?" The man let out a slow breath. He glanced at the abyss behind her, then back into her glowing eyes. "Because I know what it means to stand alone," he said. "I know what it feels like to think there's nothing left worth holding onto." Her breath caught. The word struck too close. She snarled in defense, baring her fangs. "You know nothing of me. You are human. You can never understand." For the first time, his gaze softened. His hand brushed against the scar on his face as though to remind himself it was real. "I understand more than you think," he replied quietly. He took a single step forward. Not fast, not threatening, just enough to make the distance between them smaller. The girl flinched, her claws scraping the metal, ready to leap, but he stopped, keeping his hands at his sides. "I lost them too," he continued. His voice was heavy, each word carrying sorrow. "My people, my family, my friends. The war took them all. I carry their voices every day, and some nights I stood where you are now, wondering if it was easier to let go." The alien girl froze. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. She had expected lies, excuses, or orders. She had not expected truth. She had not expected to see her pain reflected in a human's eyes. Her claws trembled again. She wanted to scream at him, to reject his words, to hold on to her anger like a shield. But the shield was cracking piece by piece. The wind howled between them, carrying dust and fragments of memory. She whispered, her voice breaking. Why are you telling me this?" The human looked at her for a long moment. His expression was not cruel, not pitying. It was steady, like a rock that refused to crumble. "Because you shouldn't have to carry it alone," he said. Her breath shivered. She shook her head violently, forcing herself to glare at him again. "Do not pretend you care," she snarled. "I am not your kind. I am not your people. I am nothing to you." His answer came like steel. "You're not nothing." The words struck her harder than any blade. Her throat tightened. She turned away, unable to meet his gaze, staring once more into the abyss below. The ledge felt colder now. The darkness seemed deeper, hungrier. And yet, for the first time, she was no longer certain she wanted to step into it. The human did not speak again. He simply stood there watching her, his presence unshaken. He did not demand. He did not command. He simply was there. And in the silence, the alien girl's heart beat louder, torn between despair and something unfamiliar, something like the beginning of hope. Memories of pain. The alien girl stood frozen, her claws still pressed against the cracked platform. Her body shook, but not from the cold wind that cut across the night sky. No, it shook because of the human's words, words that should have meant nothing, yet somehow cut deep inside her like knives. "You're not nothing." She wanted to forget those words. She wanted to erase them, to cast them away like dust. But her heart refused to obey. They echoed in, her chest stirring something she had buried long ago. Her glowing eyes turned back to the human. He still stood where he was, silent, unmoving. His scarred face was calm, his hands loose by his side. He did not push her. He did not demand more from her, he only waited. And that made it worse. "Stop," she whispered. The human tilted his head. "Stop what?" "Stop speaking as if you know me," she snapped, her voice breaking. "You know nothing of my pain." For a moment the night was silent again. Then the girl's claws scraped the metal floor as she turned her face away from him. The moons above reflected in her eyes as memories she had tried to bury came flooding back. Long ago, before the city burned, she had a family. Her mother's laughter echoed in her ears, warm and strong. Her father's proud voice still lingered, teaching her how to stand tall, how to never show fear. She had siblings, playful and wild, their tails chasing the dust in the village square. She had a home. And then, war came. Flames devoured the sky. Human machines fell from above, their shadows like monsters stretching across her people's streets. She remembered the thunder of explosions, the smell of blood, the cries of her people as the ground cracked beneath them. She remembered her father rushing to fight, her mother dragging her siblings to safety. But no one returned. The alien girl was left alone, running through ruins, hiding under debris while the voices around her fell silent one by one. The war had ended, yes, but not for her. For her, every night since had been war. Her claws dug deeper into the platform now as her breath trembled. She spoke, but not to the human. She spoke to the ghosts in her mind. They called me weak. My own people. When I could not fight, when I could not save them, they said I was useless. A child who could not carry a blade, a coward who should have died with the rest. Her voice cracked. She closed her eyes tightly, but tears still escaped, glowing faintly as they slid down her cheeks. And they were right. I am weak. I am nothing. I should have fallen long ago. The words left, her like poison, heavy and bitter. She waited for the human to laugh, to agree, to confirm the truth her people had thrown at her. But no laughter came. Instead, his voice returned, low, steady, filled with something she did not expect. "You lost everything," he said. "That doesn't make you weak. It makes you alive." She spun toward him, anger flashing in her eyes. "Alive? Do you call this living?" She slapped her chest with a clawed hand. "Every breath I take feels like betrayal. Every step I walk feels like a crime against those who should have lived instead of me. The human's eyes softened, shadows flickering across his scarred face. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, slowly, he spoke again. I used to think the same. Her rage faltered. She blinked, confusion breaking through her anger. He took a slow step forward, careful not to startle her. His boots scraped against the broken metal, steady, grounded. When my brothers fell in battle, he said, his voice quieter now, I asked myself why I was still breathing when better men had died. I thought I was cursed. I thought every breath I took was a debt I could never pay. His gaze locked with hers, unflinching. But then I realized something. The dead don't need our guilt. They need our memory. They need us to carry their voices, not bury them. The alien girl's lips trembled. Her claws loosened from the platform. His words clawed into her chest, pulling at wounds she thought had turned to stone. Her voice came out softer this time, almost like a plea. Memory cannot protect me. Memory cannot save me. No, the human admitted, his tone gentle. But it can keep you standing when the ground breaks beneath your feet. She shook her head violently, pressing her palms against her ears as though she could block his words. But no matter how she tried, they echoed in her heart. The girl's knees buckled slightly. She had carried her pain for so long, locked inside, her chest where no one could touch it. Yet this stranger, this enemy, had spoken to it as if he had known it all along. Why? Why did his voice reach her when nothing else had? Her tears fell freely now, hot against the cold night air. She let out a shivering breath, her voice barely audible. I don't want to remember anymore. The human's eyes softened further. His answer was quiet but firm. Then let me remember with you. Her chest ached as if her heart had been struck. She stared at him, unable to understand why he cared, why his voice pulled at her when everything else pushed her to the edge. For the first time since the war ended, she did not feel completely alone. The edge was still there. The abyss still called her name, but his voice had built a wall between her and the fall, and she didn't know how to break through it. The voice that holds, the alien girl's chest heaved as she stood trembling near the edge. Her claws had dug small grooves into the platform, proof of her struggle between falling and holding on. She had revealed pieces of her pain, memories she had sworn never to share with anyone, especially not a human. And yet, the words had slipped out like cracks in a broken wall. Now silence wrapped around them again. Only the sound of the cold wind filled the air, rushing through the ruins like a ghost. She wiped her glowing tears quickly with the back of her hand, ashamed of showing weakness before her enemy. The human did not mock her. He did not step closer, nor did he turn away. He simply remained where he was, his scarred face calm but steady, as though his presence itself was a shield against the darkness creeping inside her. She hated it. She needed it. Finally, she turned on him with anger in her voice, hoping to cut the strange bond that was pulling at her heart. Why do you not leave me? She demanded. You have no reason to stay here. You gain nothing from this. Walk away, human. Let me end what should have ended long ago. But the man's voice came again, low and firm, as if carved from stone. I will not. Her eyes widened, fury flashing. You defy me? You think your pity will change me? The human shook his head slowly. This isn't pity. This is choice. You're standing at the edge because no one's voice reached you before. Let mine reach you now. The girl's breath caught. His words were simple, yet they carried a strange force. She felt the ground beneath her feet tremble, not because of the unstable platform, but because her will was no longer solid. She whispered bitterly, Your voice cannot hold me. The human's gaze sharpened, yet his tone stayed gentle. It already has. The alien girl staggered a step back from the ledge without realizing it. Her body betrayed her, moving against the pull of despair. She clenched her fists, her claws scraping sparks from the metal as if she could fight his presence with fire. Why? She shouted, her voice breaking. Why do you care if I live? You should want me gone. I am alien. I am your enemy. My people fought yours. We bled each other dry. The human's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady, never rising. Yes, we fought, yes, we bled, but right now none of that matters. Right now I see not an enemy, but someone ready to give up when she shouldn't. Her glowing eyes, locked with his. They were filled with rage, confusion, and fear. Yet she could not look away. His words were chains she could not break, and at the same time, a lifeline she could not deny. She shook her head, forcing herself to resist. You don't know me. I don't need to, he replied softly. I only know what it looks like to stand in the dark. I only know what it means when silence feels heavier than life itself. And I know that one voice can pull you back, even if it comes from a stranger. The girl's knees weakened. Her heart thundered as if each beat was fighting for control. She had spent so long drowning in silence, in loneliness, in the cruel words of her people who had left her behind. And now here was this human, an enemy, a stranger, speaking words no one else ever had. His voice was not commanding. It was not soft like comfort. It was something stronger, steady, holding her in place when the abyss pulled hardest. The alien girl pressed her hands over her face, her claws trembling. She whispered into her palms, her voice cracking like broken glass. I don't know how to hold on anymore. The human took a slow breath. His answer came without hesitation. Then let me hold you with my voice until you remember how. Her arms dropped to her sides. She stared at him, her body shaking, her eyes wide as if he had spoken words forbidden by the universe itself. No one had ever said such things to her. No one had ever offered to share her burden. Her throat tightened. For the first time, she could not find anger to fight him with. Instead, a fragile, almost childlike question escaped her lips. Why me? The human's scarred face softened. He stepped one pace closer, his voice firm but warm. Because tonight I was the one who found you, and sometimes, one voice is all it takes to change everything. The girl's chest ached as tears burned her eyes again. She turned her face away, ashamed to let him see. But she did not step forward toward the abyss this time. Her claws no longer reached for the edge. Instead, she stood trembling in the middle of the platform, torn between despair and the strange, unshakable strength of his words. And in that moment, for the first time since her world had shattered, she was not completely lost. The abyss still called to her. The shadows still whispered. But now another sound cut through them, a human voice that refused to let her fall, and it held her there. The choice of life. The platform groaned beneath their feet, a long crack echoing through the night. Dust rained down into the abyss below. The alien girl flinched, her glowing eyes darting to the edge. The broken metal shook as though it wanted to betray her choice, to push her forward into the endless dark. She had not moved yet. That was the truth. For the first time since she climbed this high ruin, she was standing still, not because she had decided to live, not because she had found hope, but because of a single voice that refused to let her fall. The human stood across from her, steady and calm. His face was weary, scarred by battle, but his eyes never wavered. He watched her as though she was the most important thing in the world. Not the city below, not the war that had ended, not his own broken body. Just her. She hated it. She needed it. She did not know which truth was stronger. Another tremor shook the ruins. The sound of distant explosions echoed across the night, faint but sharp, reminding them both that the world outside their broken platform had not healed. Enemies still lingered in the shadows. War was not gone. It was only quieter now. The girl's claws tightened, scraping against the cracked floor. Her tail lashed behind her like a whip, her body trembling with indecision. What if you're wrong? She whispered. Her voice was fragile, but it carried like a scream in the silence. The human tilted his head, waiting. What if I'm too broken? What if I fall anyway? His eyes narrowed slightly, not with judgment but with focus. He took one slow step closer. Then I'll catch you. The words hit her harder than any weapon. She gasped, her heart pounding painfully against her chest. "You don't know me," she spat, desperate to push him away. "You don't know what I've done. You don't know how much blood is on my hands." The man's expression did not change. His voice came firm, like stone against the wind. "I don't need to know. Right now, all I need to know is this. You're still here. And as long as you're here, you still have a choice." Choice. The word tasted strange on her tongue. Her people had taken her choices. The war had taken her choices. Even her own heart had forced her to the edge, as if the abyss was her only path. And yet, this human was telling her otherwise. Her claws trembled again. She stepped closer to the ledge, her breath ragged. She looked down. The abyss yawned wide, its darkness endless, whispering promises of silence, of escape, of peace. One step forward, and her pain would end forever. But then, she turned her head and saw him. The human's hand was outstretched now, not demanding, not forcing, just waiting. His palm was open, steady, unshaking, his voice low and strong carried across the platform. "I won't pull you. You have to choose. But if you reach for me, I'll never let go." Her body shivered. Every part of her screamed to leap to finish what she had started. But another part, smaller, weaker, yet growing, ached to take his hand. The night was heavy with silence. The world seemed to hold its breath. Her claws lifted slowly from the edge. Her hand trembled in the air, caught between darkness and light, between despair and the faint spark of something she did not yet understand. Tears burned her eyes. Her voice cracked like broken glass. "I'm afraid." The human's eyes softened. His voice came steady, unshaken. "Then let me be afraid with you," her heart thundered. And finally, with a cry that was more like a sob, she reached out. Her clawed hand pressed into his palm. His fingers closed around hers, firm and sure. The strength of his grip anchored her, pulling her away from the edge with more power than any chain or weapon. Her knees buckled and she collapsed forward into his arms. She shook violently, her body breaking under the weight of emotions she had never allowed herself to feel. The human held her steady, his arms strong and certain, his voice quiet but unyielding. "You're safe now. You chose life." The alien girl buried her face against his chest, her tears staining his worn armor. She had not been held like this since before the war. She had forgotten what it felt like to lean on another, to not carry her burden alone. But now in this moment she felt it again. The abyss still waited behind her, silent and endless, but it no longer owned her. She had chosen, and her choice was life. Pulled back from darkness, the alien girl's body shook as the human's arms closed around her. She had reached for him, and he had caught her, just as he promised. For so long, she had carried her pain in silence, convinced that no one could ever share it. Now, for the first time since the war stole everything from her, she was not alone. Her claws clutched his armor, leaving faint scratches in the metal. She buried her face against his chest, her tears soaking into the fabric beneath. She hated showing weakness, hated being seen like this. Yet she could not stop. The walls she had built around herself had cracked, and the flood poured out uncontrollably. Fear. Human did not push her away. He did not speak false comforts. He simply held her, steady and unshaken, his presence like a shield between her and the abyss. His heartbeat was strong against her ear, steady, alive, grounding her in a world she had almost left behind. The platform groaned under the weight of the wind. Dust swirled around them, carrying with it the distant echoes of explosions. Somewhere in the ruins below, fighting still lingered. Shadows moved, lights flickered, and the world reminded them both that it was far from safe. The girl's breathing slowed, though her body still trembled. Finally, she pulled back slightly, her glowing eyes lifting to meet his. Shame burned across her face, but beneath it was something else. Confusion. "Why?" she whispered again, her voice hoarse. "Why did you not let me fall?" The man's gaze was steady, his scar catching the pale light of the moons. His answer was simple. "Because you are worth saving." Her heart jolted painfully at his words. No one had ever spoken them to her. Her own people had called her weak, useless, a burden. She had believed them. But this human, her enemy, had said the opposite, and she could not understand why it pierced so deep. Her claws trembled as she touched her chest as if testing if her heart was truly still beating. "You don't know me," she said. "I know enough," he replied firmly. Their eyes locked. His were weary but unbreakable, hers glowing with tears and uncertainty. For a long moment nothing else existed. Just two broken souls bound together on the edge of the world. Then the ground shook again. This time, the tremor was stronger. A deafening crack split the silence and part of the platform tore free, crashing into the abyss below. The girl gasped, her claws instinctively gripping the human tighter. He steadied her quickly, guiding her away from the fractured edge. His grip was sure, his voice low but commanding now. "We can't stay here. This place won't hold." Her chest tightened with fear. The abyss had nearly claimed her once. Now, even the ruins themselves seemed ready to swallow them. She stumbled. As he guided her, her legs weak from exhaustion and tears, but his hand around hers was unyielding, pulling her forward, away from the crumbling ledge. Every step felt like a battle. The girl's body screamed at her to collapse, to give in to the weight of her despair. But each time she faltered, the human's voice steadied her. "Breathe. One more step. Don't look back." His words were like torches in the darkness, guiding her feet when her mind threatened to fall apart. She hated that she needed him. She hated that without his voice, she might have already surrendered. And yet, she kept walking. They reached the far end of the platform, where the broken path continued into the ruins of a tower. The girl slumped against the wall, her claws scraping stone as she caught her breath. Her glowing eyes flickered toward him. "Why, are you still here?" she whispered. "You could have left me behind." The human crouched beside her, his expression serious but calm. "I told you," he said. "No one deserves to be alone at the edge. Not even you." The words sank into her like fire, warming and burning all at once. She wanted to deny them, to push him away, but the truth was impossible to escape. Without him, she would already be gone. Her chest ached. Slowly, she lowered her gaze. "I don't know how to live anymore." The human's voice came steady, like a stone anchoring her against the storm. "Then, let me teach you." Her breath caught. She looked up sharply, shock flashing across her face. His eyes held no mockery, no pity. Only resolve, only truth. The platform behind them groaned once more, then collapsed entirely into the abyss with a thunderous roar. Dust and smoke filled the air. The girl's claws dug into the stone wall, fear flashing across her glowing eyes. But she was not standing at the edge anymore. She was safe, because he had pulled her back. As the dust settled, silence returned. The alien girl stared at the abyss, her heart still racing. Then she turned back to him, her voice trembling. "You caught me once, but what if I fall again?" The human did not hesitate. His voice came firm and certain, stronger than the crashing ruins. "Then I'll catch you every time." Her breath hitched. Her chest tightened with emotions she could not name. For the first time, she felt the chains of despair loosen, even if only slightly. The abyss would always be there, waiting. But now, so would he. And in his voice, she found something she thought she had lost forever. A reason to keep walking. New beginning. The dust from the fallen platform still drifted in the air, glowing faintly under the pale light of the twin moons. The alien girl leaned against the cold stone wall, her breath uneven, her heart still racing. Moments ago, she had been ready to surrender to the abyss. But now, she was here, alive, trembling, but alive. Her glowing eyes shifted toward the human, who stood beside her. His armor was battered, his face worn, but his stance was steady as ever. His hand, still scarred and strong, rested loosely at his side, as though ready to catch her again if she stumbled. She could not understand him. She could not understand why a human, a stranger, an enemy, had chosen to save her, to stay with her when she had been ready to fall. Her claws curled into fists as she whispered, "You should have let me go." The human looked at her quietly, for a moment before answering. His voice was calm but carried the weight of steel. "If I had, I'd have lost something worth saving." Her chest ached at his words. She turned away, ashamed of the tears still burning her eyes. She hated showing weakness, but at the same time she could not deny the truth. Without him, she would already be gone. For a while, silence lay between them. Only the distant echoes of battle and the moaning wind filled the ruins. Finally, she spoke again, her voice low and uncertain. "What now?" The human lifted his gaze to the broken skyline, his eyes narrowing as the horizon glowed faintly with fire. "Now, we move forward." The girl's tail flicked nervously. "Forward to what?" "There is nothing left, no family, no home, nothing to fight for." The man turned his scarred face back to her, his eyes unwavering. "Then find something new, a reason to fight, a reason to live." Her heart pounded. The thought felt impossible, almost cruel, but his words held no mockery. They were steady, grounding like stones laid on a broken path. She lowered her gaze, whispering, "And if I can't, then let me walk with you until you can." Her eyes widened. She stared at him, searching his face for lies, for weakness, for anything that would make his promise false. But there was nothing, only resolve. The ruins groaned around them again, a reminder that the world was still dangerous, still cruel. The human reached out his hand once more, not forcing, just offering. "Come with me," he said. "We don't have to fight alone anymore." Her claws trembled. For so long she had been told she was weak, worthless, better off forgotten. And yet here was a human, an enemy, offering her something her own people had denied her: choice. Slowly, painfully, she lifted her hand. Her claws brushed against his palm, and once again his grip closed firm and steady around hers. The warmth of his hold spread through her chest, pushing back the cold shadows that had haunted her for so long. Together, they stepped away from the ruins of the broken platform, their shadows stretching across the cracked stone. Each step felt heavy, but not as heavy as before. Each step felt uncertain, but no longer hopeless. The alien girl's voice came soft, almost fragile. "I don't know who I am anymore." The human glanced at her, his tone steady. "Then let's find out together." For a moment, silence returned. But this silence was different. It was no longer the silence of despair. It was the silence of beginning, of possibility. As they walked deeper into the ruins, the night seemed less dark. The twin moons shone brighter, their pale light guiding them forward. The abyss still waited behind her, but she did not look back. She had been pulled from its grip, and now she had something stronger to follow. At last she whispered, her voice breaking but filled with a faint spark of hope. "Your voice. It saved me." The human's expression softened. He said nothing, only tightened his grip on her hand as they moved forward together. Far away, the fires of war still burned. Enemies still lurked in the shadows. The path ahead was dangerous, uncertain and filled with trials. But for the first time, the alien girl was not afraid to face it because she was no longer alone.